We're going to watch this video called Buy Palantir Before July 18th, Why Traders Should Watch This Date. Now, I don't know why, but I actually am quite bullish on Palantir, so I'm curious to see what Corey has to say about it.
There's a lot of unusual activity in Palantir and its options chain for this Friday, July 18th. Strap in because we're going to dive into why this is. And not only that, I'm going to show you guys why it could be a very big bullish sign for the stock. So don't go anywhere because we're going to start right from the beginning. I'm going to explain to you guys exactly what this potentially means for Palantir investors and potential investors. Let's get right to it. The OIC, Options Industry Council, shows where options expire. You have your quarterly expirations, which is where big hedge funds are making most of their moves. And then you have your monthly expirations, because until somewhat recently, up until about 20 years ago, 2005 to be exact, you could only trade monthly options. Then they added weekly. Now the SPY is daily. And this is particular because hedge funds only really trade monthly options and quarterly options. Now they do trade weekly.
Okay, so while Corey's explaining this, let me log into my Trader account. So he mentioned options chains. I want to make sure that I have an options chain handy so we can go through this together as well. But options, the most liquidity you're going to find are on the monthly contracts. However, monthly contracts can vary wildly, right? It's every third Friday of the month. And in fact, if you look at this calendar right here, while my trader is loading up, you're going to see it's every third Friday of the month. That's where your highest liquidity is at. Can you only trade exclusively monthlies? Absolutely. 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 There is nothing stopping you from just trading monthlies. In fact, I did that for ages, right? My particular style of trading, I like to go 21 days to expiration. And sometimes it doesn't really fit well in there, right? So here's Civi, for example, one that we traded a while ago. Didn't work out, but that's beyond the point here. It has 1 day to expiration for the July options. It has 29 days to expiration for the August options. That's pretty cool. Well, let's go to Palantir. And you're going to see weekly options here because a lot more people are interested in it, right? So if I were starting to find a trade, I would start on the August 8th options chain. And that is 22 days to expiration. And if I didn't see enough liquidity here, I generally like to go one forward and one backward, right? I don't have to always go on the monthlies if I can find the liquidity I need on the weeklies. Now, reason being, let's go back to Civi. Let's go back to Civi. The reason being is that you're going to find that the price of the option is going to vary wildly the further out you go. So for example, let's look at the 25 call on Civi. This is just the one I pulled up here. There's no other reason than that. It just happened to be up by default. That was the last one I looked at prior. The 25 calls that have 1 day to expiration are $3.30 on the ask. The 25 calls with 29 days to expiration are $4 on the ask. The 25 calls with September 19th, 64 days to expiration are $4.90. So it goes from $3.30 to $4 to $4.90. Of course, I want to pay as little as I have to for the option, right? I'm not buying the out of the money option junk, but I am taking leveraged investments. And by doing so, I want to spend as little as I can. So if we go to Palantir here, and we do the same thing, we go to at the monies, just for posterity's sake, right? We can see that with 1 day to go, the 140, let's use the 150s. That's going to be the easiest to keep track of. The 150s are 266. The 150s are 490 just a week later. The 150s are 665 a week after that. The 150s are 1155 a week after that. The 150s are 1235 a week after that, right? You see how expensive it gets the further out in time you go. So for me, I like to start at 21 days, and then I'll go pretty much in this ballpark here. Can you go shorter? For sure. But you get a lot more risk. The risk comes from if you buy something in the money. Let's say, for example, let's say that I bought an 80 Delta call in the money. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but I know my shit. Let's say I went for the 148 and it's got 1 day to expiration. There's a super high likelihood that 148 could be out of the money and worthless by the time expiration happens, right? We only got basically 1 day to find out if that's going to work. Even though it's that was a 70 Delta at the time, we only have 1 day, right? Which means your expiration risk, people would call this the gamma risk, is extremely high. But then we go to the 148 at 22 days to expiration here, right? Even if it goes out of the money, there's still a chance it'll come back in. And so it's only got a 57 delta right here. So my gamma risk is very low on this trade because I have 22 days to find out if it will or will not be in the money. And we want it to be as deep in the money as physically possible. Okay. So that was a an off-topic options lesson. There you go. And that was free, by the way. Money back guarantee.
Weekly on occasion, but typically big money, smart money, huge investors, dark pool data is most of the time monthly, almost all the time actually, and quarterly has a lot of open interest, a lot of volume, and a lot of dark pool activity as well. And typically that's what happens around earnings and around big, huge plays. But right now we're going to focus on Palantir and the July 18th options chain, where I'm going to show you guys where Palantir is being manipulated and dragged down into the 140 range. I'm going to show you two particular options that are basically wedging Palantir between two strike prices. In fact, they're call options, and one of them is long and one of them is short. And there's
okay. Now he has piqued my curiosity. I have no idea what he's talking about, but there's manipulation to wedge it between a certain price. Okay, I'm interested. Corey, you have captured my attention.
So much open interest in volume and so much dark pool activity in between these strikes, it is pretty much forming a very narrow wedge on Palantir. But all of this dissipates this Friday, July 18th. So what does this mean for the stock? Well, we're about to find out. This is something I teach to my Discord all the time. So if you find this confusing and you'd like,
we're going to skip forward any sort of ads, by the way.
Like to every single day, let me show you what's really going on in the market. And if you don't believe me yet, you will after watching this video, because I'm going to show you there's a lot more going on in the market than you would think. So I was just looking at dark pool data, and there is a lot of calls that are being...
Okay, before you say it, this is really small on my screen too. It's very difficult for me to read all this.
Sold at 150, very specifically 150 and 149. And I'm going to show you why this is pretty particularly interesting. And when we go look at the call options on Palantir, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking.
This is HIMS. Surely he'll change it.
About. There is a lot of...
He changed it. Okay.
Of open interest on Palantir in the 150 range, and this is happening specifically on this Friday. If we look at these call options here, this Friday.
Okay, so I'm gonna go look on the Friday, July 18th, 150 strike. Friday, July 18th, 150 strike on Palantir. So first off, I don't know what Corey's going to say here. I'm just going to give what I see. Okay, what I see. First off, the 150 strike is at the money. It's 150.91. So once it crosses over to like 152.50, you'll see this move over. What do I see? The bid and ask is pretty tight. It's only 3 cents wide. It does have 91 cents of intrinsic value. Remember, intrinsic value, this is the amount we're trying to maximize here. And it's 91 cents because that's the difference between the current price and the strike price. So that 91 cents makes total sense. The extrinsic value is the difference between the 266 and the 91. So that's 74 cents, give or take. Lots of tons and tons and tons of open interest. I don't see anything that is unusual to me. What am I? You tell me in the chat. What am I missing here? I mean, we're going to listen to Corey. Maybe Corey can explain it. But I don't see anything. I don't see anything weird about this. Just another option strike.
July 18th, there is 29,000 open interest. 155 is 47,000. There's 35,000 at 152, 26,000 at 157, and then it drops off to 16,000 at 160. So essentially between 150 and 160, you have like almost 200,000 open interest. It is crazy. But then down here at 140, you have 36,000 and there's no more open interest anymore.
That's where Chris trades, the deep in the monies, right? Does he have the delta on here? Yeah, he does. He said 140, which is the 91 delta. That's my ballpark. I like the 80 delta ballpark over here, but the 91, I'm not opposed to trading.
We're near that, except for specifically 140. So keep that in mind. 140 is a key level, 150 is another key level, and from 150 to 160 is a range. When we go look at Palantir, we can see that one.
Whoa, he stole that, Corey. You commented the last time. You commented the last time we did a video with you, and I don't remember this on there, my friend. You thief. You thief. Greed extreme. Who? Corey? Unfortunately, you don't have access unless you bought OVTLYR. You don't have access to the OVTLYR 9, which will give you an objective way to measure these with the greed and extreme greed, strong buy to strong sell. But I love the fact that you have decided to take one of our concepts, my dude. I love that you've decided to take one of our concepts, my dude.
150 is right there. And then we can see that 140 is right.
I should send him a cease and desist. For those of you who don't know, one of our things we used to say is only price pays, right? Only price pays is one thing that is just active in the trader community. That's what people say. One of my used to be friends, I've talked to this guy many times, Brian Shannon, trademarked that just last September, not even a full year. And then he sent us a cease and desist because we were saying only price pays in our videos. So there you go. For those of you who wonder, hadn't heard that story, that's how the cease and desist has come about. That's why we don't say that anymore.
Here. And this is pretty particular because the stock has stayed. If we draw this line at 140, the stock has pretty much stayed above that most of the time, coincidentally. And the stock has also stayed below 150. So this shows you the range. And then, of course, we account for the stock potentially running up because I just showed you the range went all the way to 160, which is up to here. So this right here is the range in which the call options have variable open interest and volume. And this is where most of the volume is. So essentially what's going on.
I'm sorry. I was so distracted by the fact that I feel like he stole that from us. I wasn't listening to him. I need to pay better attention.
Is the stock is being held down. The 140s are likely long calls and the 150s through 160s are short calls. So then I dug into my dark pool data. And that's exactly what it is. There's a lot of 140s being bought and a lot of 150s being sold, which is a condor, which is a hedge. The stock is being held between 140 and 150. Now, if we go to next week, open interest is 30,000, 35, 47, 26, and 16. If we go to July 25th, you'll see it's now 6,000, 3,000, 4,000, 1,000. Completely gone. 10,000 at 149. We go down to 140, and the 30,000 number is now 6,000. August 1st, same thing. Even less open interest. Go down to 140, less. Go to the earnings play the week of August 8th, 150, very little open interest anywhere. In fact, most of the open interest is around 220. Most of the open interest down low is 140 and 135. But even in earnings play, earnings time, there is no open interest anywhere. So what does that mean? Well, when there's no
I mean, some of these open interest numbers that he's talking about, right? Like when we put on trades, we cause this. Like we're calling this the outlier effect. When we put in, like, legitimately, the outliers will put in 10,000 contracts all at once. And there have actually started to be, I don't know, some of our Discord members have started posting, people are making articles about it. They're like, something just happened on this strike on this stock, and it was exactly us, right? I don't know. I feel like he's reading too deep into this about all the open interest. I don't know. This is just Chris's opinion.
Open interest on the call options up high, it likely means that there's not a lot of short activity there. And typically hedge funds, when they operate like this, they'll open up the window of opportunity for a stock to move and all the short positions will disappear. Now, on earnings, typically stocks are either bullish or bearish, right? If there's only two directions you can go. So to go from 100,000 open interest on either end to virtually zero shows exactly what's going on. If we look at July 18th, look at the 140, 36,000, August 8th, we look at 140, virtually nothing, all the way to the option chain. There is virtually no open interest except 220. This is essentially the hedge funds holding the stock down for July 18th, meaning after July 18th, this Friday, starting Monday, going through next week, there is a potential massive upside move that could happen on Palantir. Now, let's look at the put options. The put options have virtually no open interest. Look at 150, 218. There's no open interest.
Okay, that is notable. Right, that is notable. Okay, I'm just looking around here. July 18th. Right, this is where Chris plays. The deep in the monies are where Chris goes, right? Everything's 80, 90, 100 delta over here. But deep in the money puts that nobody's there. Basically, the way that I'm reading this, and I think that was a question in the chat. The way that I'm reading this is people are very bullish on Palantir. I mean, it's very obvious where the bullishness is, right? I don't have like a sum, but I would bet you the sum of open interest in the calls is multiples, 6, 8, 10 times as many open interest as the puts over here. That's super interesting. So I do feel like he may have pointed out something. But really it's like heavily weighted on calls versus on puts. And it really shouldn't be too much of a surprise because Palantir is one of these meme stocks. And if we zoom out slightly, right? Palantir is one of these stocks where people are like ultra excited to be buying it. By the way, that's where Chris made 74% in 5 days. Now I'm also bullish on Palantir because look at it, right? It's got its 10/20, price over 50. That's the bullish trend template that we have in OVTLYR. It has a buy signal. It's getting less fearful, more greedy. However, there are some problems here under the surface, right? The average fear and greed score for the sector is going down. The number of buy signals in the sector is going down. So the sector is not working for Palantir whatsoever. So Palantir is kind of floating off on its own. But you know what? It's pushing up higher. So that's good for Palantir, I guess you could say. Let's continue on with the video here. Oh, wait. I just thought of something. Tesla. Tesla's an exciting stock. And I'm wondering, because Tesla has been both bullish and bearish lately, if Tesla is going to have a similar situation where it's loaded on one side or if it's more evenly distributed. Let's go find out. Chris don't know. It's way more evenly distributed. Look at this, right? I mean, more evenly distributed, yes, right? You've got a significant amount of open interest, same expiration on the calls, both in and out of the money. You've got a significant interest on puts, both in and out of the money, but only slightly in the money. After a little bit in the money, people kind of run out of puts over here. So, if you want to use that as a comparison, you can definitely see that Palantir has a significantly higher amount of call open interest than put open interest. And if you compare it to Tesla, you can see that that is actually a thing. So maybe Corey's onto something here.
There's like maybe 3,000 plus this 5,000 way down here at 120 is virtually no open interest compared to call options. And this is August 8th for the earnings play, which is even more volatile. Going to July 18th, we do have some 125 put options. These are highly likely, like 99.999%, almost pretty much guaranteed. These are sold puts, means bullish, because the stock's never going to 125 in a couple of days. I mean, it could, but this is almost surely a support. If we scroll up to 135, there's 11,000, there's 17,000 at 140. These are likely bullish positions. 145, again, likely bullish. Anything below 145 is likely bullish. We can see 150, there's open interest of 3,000, but interestingly enough, there's a lot of volume up here at 148. So you can see these are likely, the 150s, 149s, 148s have a high potential to be 50-50 or more like 60-40 in favor of short. Now, in dark pool data, it does show me there's a lot of block and sweep orders, and I've tried to decipher between this activity, and a lot of these puts are.
I've heard that phrase thrown around quite a lot, dark pool activity. I don't want you to get concerned on that, right? All you need to focus on is, number one, is it trending higher? In fact, this is what you need to focus on. Let's run the OVTLYR 9. Let's run this right now on Palantir. And we can be objective, right? We don't have to be searching all over the place. We could look in one spot to get all the data that we need. So first, let's go look at the market. All right, so let's go into OVTLYR. Let's go to our watch list over here. Now, I've set the market to be my watch list here, so I always have a look at it, right? So we can see the SPY is still sitting on a buy signal. So let's pop into it. And we can see that this is going to have a bullish trend. We're all aware that the market has been trending higher. But the 10 over the 20, price over 50, that's your outlier trend template right there. 10 over 20, price over 50 with a buy signal. Okay, so we're going to mark these green. Let's go next to the market breadth. Now, market breadth had been falling down hard and fast. I have not taken a look at it today. Let's take a look. We can see all the sectors over here, except for utilities, are bearish. Every sector except for utilities is bearish on breadth, and this continues to fall right here. Now, what this is measuring is how many stocks are on our bull list, how many stocks are getting the buy signals versus sell signals. So this means more and more stocks are getting sell signals than buy signals. And that red line is the EMA, the 10 EMA, so we can see those crossover points. So this is bearish. Breadth on the market's bearish. Now, if we go back to Palantir, we already discussed this, but it's getting lower average fear values. I'm sorry, lower average greed values, moving towards fear, away from greed in the sector. The sector breadth is bearish as well, meaning more and more sell signals. So this is going to stay red. Now let's go down to the stock itself. Let's go down to the stock itself. If we look at Palantir, we've got a buy signal, 10 over 20, price over 50, and it's getting more greedy, less fearful. So red, green, green, green. Then lastly, I don't believe there are any outlier blocks on top of Palantir. Let's go double check. No, it just pushed through one recently, pushing to new all-time highs. If you ever want to know, all-time highs are exceptionally bullish because anybody who's ever owned the stock is profitable at this point. And there's nobody up ahead, nobody on top of it saying, you know what, once it gets to this point, I'm going to sell out. There's nobody there. So all-time highs are always bullish. Doesn't mean it's going to continue on forever. But if you want to see a stock that pushes higher and higher and higher, all-time highs are a great place to go. So here, Palantir's a weak buy for me. Palantir's a weak buy, right? Reason being is it's not a full setup here on Outlier 9. It's not even 9 of 9 or 8 of 9. It's 6 of 9. So that is Chris's personal opinion on it. Now, as far as that relates to dark pools, right? I'm not searching through all this data to find out, right? I'm looking directly on the chart for it to tell me what's going on. I'm looking directly in one place in the dashboard to see what's going on. And that makes life incredibly simple. You don't need all kinds of different services or places to go look. Just need Outlier and just need TradingView. In TradingView, you can even use the free plan, and we give you the templates inside of Outlier to have all of your charts look exactly the same as mine. Exactly the same as mine for free in our Discord. Let's continue on.
Are bought, meaning long. These are essentially bearish positions up here, and a lot of them are long down here. And the 125s all the way through 145s are sold puts, whereas they start to turn into purchased puts, especially at 150, 149, 148. There's a lot of puts that were bought. Now, if we look at that,
well, that's interesting. Hear me out. You ready? If a put was bought, what does that mean? If a put was sold, what does that mean? If a put was bought, that means somebody sold it to them, right? If you're buying a DuckTales mug, somebody had to sell it to you. If you're selling a DuckTales mug, somebody's buying it from you. So to say these are bought, these are sold, not really a thing. That's why it's open interest. That's why it's volume, because somebody's on the other side transacting every time. To say something's bought or something sold doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
And go to July 25th, there's no open interest, just like the call options. So what does this mean? Okay, I'm going to draw this out in red for you. So essentially, this line right here, we're going to change this line to red. So essentially, this red line down here, you've got a lot of put options between the two red lines, and you also have call options being bought, okay? But then you also have call options being sold here and here, and you have put options that are being bought here to here. So essentially, to keep this very, very simple.
I'm pausing for dramatic effect. What he's describing is just the market. What he's describing is just the market. Yes, calls are being bought and sold up here. calls are being bought and sold over here. Puts are being bought and sold over here. Not much is going on over here, though. That's the market. I don't understand the point that he's trying to make. And so we're trying to squeeze them together because people are buying calls and selling calls and buying puts and selling puts. I really don't understand. But then again, it's just Chris's itty bitty baby brain.
Without confusing you guys too much, we'll clean.
Chris is confused too much. Gene says, I think he's overanalyzing. Water is wet. News at 11. Calls and puts are being sold around the stock price. Breaking news. Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at right now with this.
This all up. Pretty much there's a lot of call options being sold and put options being bought up here. Okay. There's bearish movement here. Between 135 and 145, you have calls being bought and puts being sold bullish. Okay. And that means the stock should be staying in between. And that's exactly what it's.
Ooh, he said a dirty word. What word did he just say? We're going to abandon this video here in just a moment. What word did Corey just say? It's the most dangerous word in finance. Anybody want to put it in the chat? There it is. He said should. He said should. This is the most dangerous word in finance. Now, let's talk about why should is the most dangerous word in finance. Right? You can't tell a stock where it's going to go. And I don't know Corey's thesis behind this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And that's okay, right? Corey's going to do what Corey's going to do. He's going to trade what he's going to trade. So more power to him. You do you, Corey. For me, right, I'm backing up my points with data here. And that data tells me to be bullish on the stock, right? Doesn't mean I'm going to go out and buy it right now, because it's not, because it doesn't fit my trading plan. But I'm bullish on Palantir at this point. I have no reason not to be bullish on Palantir at this point. So the thing with the should is, if Corey and anyone else, you know, if the Joker says should, or if the Riddler says should, right? Batman is telling you not to say should, right? If you're saying the price should go here, first off, you're setting an anchor, right? You're setting a price anchor. And by doing so, if the price does this, that's invalidated your theory. And now maybe you're emotionally invested, maybe you're short Palantir and you're like, well, it should go to this point right here, right? Because of my reason X, Y, and Z. Or let's say you're like, well, Chris is bullish right here. It should go up, right? It should go up to 165, right? But the problem here with setting that anchor is it may never hit 160. It literally may never in the history of time hit 165. That is a possibility. It may never go down to 130 if that's where you think it should go. That is a possibility. That is absolutely an actual possibility. But when you say a stock should do this or it should do that, that's you trying to convey into the market, which will not listen to you. That's you trying to convey into the market that you know better. And rather than following on with the trend, having no expectations of what's going to happen, right? I have no expectations on my point. In fact, I have this written down, right? This is not just Chris talking about his backside, right? This is Chris actually following sound principles in trading. I have no expectations on where it's going to go. If I set an expectation and it doesn't achieve that, am I then setting myself up to say, I will hold until my expectation is hit? For example, if you're short, like, and I feel like that's what Corey's saying here is that he's short on Palantir. I could be wrong. But if you're short and it never goes to 135, are you going to hold that short until eternity because you set that anchor there? Or by having no expectations, I'm just going to let it play out the way it plays out. And if I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's okay. But it obviously doesn't make for a compelling YouTube video to say, oh, my price target is anything. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. Never set expectations. That's right. Never set expectations. Let's do this. Falcon says, I have to make a confession. I bought D Pro after watching the video analysis of Felix drone stock picks. I think I got 7 out of 9 on the OVTLYR 9. I'm not unhappy. Thanks for that video. Awesome. Let's go look at D Pro. I'm not unhappy. Generally, that means I am happy. There you go. And, you know, I can be bullish on D Pro, right? As it's pulling up here. But these areas of resistance make Chris a very nervous boy. Make Chris a very, very nervous boy. because there are people who are waiting to get out at these areas, Wild Stimpy Norwood says he's riding the Rocket Lab, RKLB. He's riding the Rocket Lab to the moon. In fact, let's jump into Rocket Lab real quick. RKLB. I think I covered this one in the Sunday video. Let's run the OVTLYR 9 on Rocket Lab. Why not? Just for funds. Just for funsies. All right. Let's reset. The market will stay the same. Let's look at the sector. This is not in the tech sector. This is the industrials sector. So we can see here industrial sector breadth falling off a cliff. Industrial sector fear and greed is actually growing, but it seems like it's peaked. Yeah, it's coming down ever so slightly. So we're going to leave both of these red. Now let's go to the stock itself. 10 over 20, price over 50 with a buy signal that came on July 8th. We're going to do. And then the fear and greed continues to get more and more greedy. It's up at 65 right now. So that's definitely not the max that it could be on fear and greed. But from July 8th to now is where? From July 8th to now, right? It pushed through that outlier block before that. From July 8th to now, come on, click correctly. Let's go. There we go. Up 32%. 32%. Right. So at the time, it may have been 9 out of 9. I don't know, on July 8th. It may have been 8 out of 9. But right now, Rocket Lab looks really, really sharp. Now, of course, where are you going to get out? Here's the thing. Where are you going to get out? Right? It's super fun and exciting to watch a stock moon like this. Where are you going to get out? For Chris, I like to look at a couple different things. First, I like to look at a trailing stop using the 10-day EMA. Now, here's the thing, right? With the 10-day EMA, you have to understand that you will not catch the top, right? If price comes back from here to here, you're not going to catch the top. And you're going to have to be okay with that. Not specifically you, Wild Stimpy Norwood. I'm just saying in general. If you use a trailing stop, you'll never catch the top because it's meant to let you run it as far as it can and then alert you once it starts going the other way. Okay. The other main way that I like to get out is by following the fear and greed heat map. Now, if it was at 55 when I got in and it's up at 65 right now, this is Chris's exit signal, literally today. In fact, let me show you that I'm not speaking out my backside. This is my actual exit plan. Here, if I got in when it's 0 to 55, I get out at a heat map of 63. Between 50 and 75, I get out with a 10-point spread on that heat map value. As I said a moment ago, that heat map entry point was 55. The exit point, which you could take today, get out, sell into strength on its way up, is 65. Rocket Lab is today an exit point for me. You do you. Take it out at Mars. There you go. We're going to go past the moon and head straight out to Mars, right? So that's what Chris would do. Now, the thing is, you need to have that plan, okay? You need to have that plan to figure out where you're going to get out. We covered a ton today. And if this has helped you in any way, let me know by sharing this with somebody who you feel like could use this as well. And if you're ready to save time, make money, and start winning with less risk, click one of these 2 videos, and we'll talk soon.